Right. Welcome everyone to our inspiring and motivating IAPC&M author series, where we get to pick the brains of those amazing 3% of people who actually make it to the end and publish their book. Now, this series can be found on our blog, which complements our book review club, so be sure to check it out. So maybe you too are dreaming of writing a book, but it just never seems to get to the finish line. I know I'm in that category. So anyway, we're then in the right place. So my name is Judy Kennedy, and I'm your IAPC&M host. And I am delighted today to welcome John Parr, psychotherapist and creator of the emotional assertiveness model and author of What's Love Got to Do with It, Foreplay, Fair Play and Foul Play, and more. We actually interviewed John not long ago, a beautiful masterclass, which I would very much recommend you to look up. But for now, we're talking about books. So welcome, John.
Hello.
So, I mean, you've written many books, so you haven't made it past the finish line just once, but 3 times. But how did it all start? I mean, why in the first place did you want to write a book?
Well, to be really honest, it was a long time. I didn't want to write a book.
Right.
I was dyslexic, or am dyslexic, and I went to school in the early 50s when dyslexia was called stupid.
Yeah.
So I struggled a lot through the education system. And when I left school, I said, that's it with education.
Right.
Although I passed all of my school leaving exams, much to the amazement of my teachers, who said, stay on, my view was, no, thank you very much.
Right.
Writing a book wasn't really on my agenda. I always found writing a bit painful. And then, must be about 8, 9 years ago, a colleague who had written a book in French translated it into English, or had it translated into English, and asked me to edit it.
Right.
When I edited it, I discovered this isn't an edit, this is a rewrite. So I said, look,
Right.
I'm going to have to rewrite it. So I took 2 years and rewrote that. It was a labor of love.
Indeed.
And I didn't really think about writing anything else after that. That book was called Parlez-vous Personality. And then I developed this model, emotional assertiveness, back in the 90s, and I've been training people to deliver it as a seminar. And someone said, would you write a book? So I sat down and said, yes, I would. And that book was Foreplay, Fair Play and Foul Play. And that took me almost 5 years to write. I kept writing it and getting blocked.
Right, so that's exactly what we want to talk about. So basically it was for your business then, right? It was, okay, people.
It was, yes.
Yeah, so people were saying, this is useful, but, can't you just write a book? That would help us a lot. So I guess your stimulation was the idea that obviously you'd created this fantastic model and wanted it to go as far as it could, to reach as many people as possible. Yes. So the book you saw a book as a good vehicle to deliver your message. So, okay, yes. It took you 5 years. So first of all, how did you not give up?
Well, because I'm bloody minded.
Okay. Okay.
So I wanted to finish it, and I kept getting about 35,000 words in and struggling and rewriting it and struggling and rewriting it and struggling. And then I contacted an author and said, look, I'm really blocked. I don't understand why I just can't get past it. And she was brilliant, and she helped me to see that I needed to restructure, that the problem was a structural problem. So I restructured the book and finished it in weeks. Once I'd got the structure right, I could put everything together because it was all up here.
So I'm hearing a good tip there. Basically, you're saying, don't just keep fighting and hitting your head against the wall. Get some professional help, and yes, everything will just fall into place.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very good tip.
And then the next book came. It was really strange. I'd got the first book, the Foreplay, Fair Play, Foul Play, back from the line editor in its final edit. Discovered that one chapter, all of the illustrations were in the wrong place. So read it in that chapter in order to relocate the illustrations. Having read it, thought you could have written that better. So took a weekend and pulled that chapter apart and rewrote it. On the Sunday night, I sent it off to the editor, and the last thought I had was, that's the last book that I'm going to ever write. And then in the morning, I woke up, and the first thought that I had on waking was, that chapter's a book. So I sat down, and the last book, What's Love Got to Do with It, I wrote in 6 weeks. So
right. Right. So, okay.
So
So that's the writing bit and the motivation. Now, I guess something which also blocks a lot of us is, finance. And, you don't really make money from books, do you? No. Right.
So far I've invested in the books. I've self-published.
Right. Self-published. Okay. Now, how easy was that?
That was easy. I just had to
Really?
find, yes, I just had to find someone who would do the processing for me. So the editing, the line editing, and they were brilliant. They were a company in the States, and they took over pretty much getting it through to print.
Okay.
It took a weight off my shoulders. I didn't have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah. And was that very expensive?
I think it cost me about 6,000, but that includes that they do a lot of work for me on marketing it and getting it to market.
Okay, so they really took it. They took hold of you. You wrote the words, had got some help for the structure, and got some help probably editing or at least proofreading, and then they did all the getting it. So all in all, how much would you say it cost, if you don't mind sharing? Obviously,
about 6,000.
That's in total, the whole book.
In total, yeah.
Okay,
total.
Right. And so, what would you say that your book or books have done for your business?
Well, already people are beginning to buy them and come to me and ask about the material. I've got people signing up for seminars, signing up to be trainers to be able to train the material themselves and deliver. So it's done pretty much what I wanted. It's broken some of the ground in the marketing. The first book, Foreplay, Fair Play, Foul Play, is actually the whole of the 3-day seminar, plus some. And so now I no longer give people a handout. I give them a copy of the book.
Right.
And so they take away a copy with them, which is less expensive than giving them a handout. Printing handouts was more expensive than getting it printed. So
that's a good tip. Okay.
Yeah, it's and people appreciate it. So
Of course. And then you can obviously sign it for them if they've come to your seminar. Makes you feel that you've gone home with a gift.
They pretty much all ask for that. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, but then when I know, for example, when I try writing, I have just too much to say, and so I would say it probably comes down to what you were saying about structure. So you basically took your masterclass, so where you'd already obviously worked on the structure, what needs to go in, how many days, how many sections, and then you put that into book format.
Yes.
And What's Love Got to Do with It? Was that what did you follow in order to structure that one?
I first of all I looked at the chapter 10 of Foreplay, Fair Play, Foul Play, which is what the book flowed from, and I used the structure that was in the chapter, so it was already structured. There was just a few pages on the material, and what I've done is I've taken one chapter per form of love. I'm using the Greek words for love, and examining each Greek word in turn to see what that means practically in the relationships that we have. So I've got a chapter for each of those. So that's the first 7 chapters. And then I talk about stitching all of that together. So in any relationship, you have more than one of those forms of love. And how does that work? And the structure
Sounds
was pretty
fascinating.
easy, really.
Right. And so for everything which was sort of design and book cover, all of that you gave to someone else?
I have a design woman a graphic designer who's done all of my design work for years. So if I put together a slide presentation for a seminar, I send it to Tina, and Tina makes it look like I can't.
Yes.
And she knows my material intimately because we've been working together for years. So she actually painted some pictures. She painted
Wow.
the cover of each book.
Wow.
And I now have in pride of place both of those paintings on my wall. So
That's so lovely.
it is
But
lovely.
so that
Yeah.
again is another tip, because I think we get stopped. I mean, for some, it is the writing, you know, or the fear of writing, or then the self-confidence, like, you know, who wants to listen to me? And there are so many books out there and all the stuff that lots of us, maybe women more than men, I don't know, you know, hold us back. But I think for many of us, it's more, you know, the technical side as well. So the design, the publishing, you know, all the inside design of it, the outside design of it, that is what puts us up and off. And I think, you know, reading between the lines of what you're saying, it's, you know, don't do the stuff that you're not good at, you know, focus on the content, which is then unique, right? So that, you know, how many coaches or whatever there are out there, our view on things are different. And then just make sure that you then save enough, I guess, to have the other people, you know, who are specialists in their fields, do their bit.
Yes, absolutely. And all of the illustrations I wrote with a pen, just drew them out, gave them to Tina, and Tina made them look right.
So would you advise that, you know, this is an audience of coaches, would you advise us to write a book?
Well, it's a difficult question, because it would, for me, first of all, it would be the question that I would want to ask is, why do you want to write a book?
Right.
Do you have an objective or a goal, or is it just that you want to write a book? I don't think there's anything wrong with just wanting to write a book, but the advice I would give might be different depending on why people were doing it.
I think increasingly, not just in the coaching world, because I'm also in a big women's network, it's the thing, you write a book to give credibility to your business. So either you get together with a whole bunch of people under the same theme, or you do your own thing, but that to be credible nowadays and taken seriously as an expert in your field, you need to have written a book. So I don't know if the why is for everyone a burning desire. Like, you know, we all have different books in us. I have a mixture of both. There are a few I feel I should do in order to profile myself as an expert. But then I have a few that I just know I need to write. And even if nobody else than me reads them, I just need to write them. They're there and they're wanting to come out.
Yes.
But I think if you know, this is in particular about, you know, profiling, and for our business point of view, I think quite a few of us feel that, you know, you need to do a book in order to gain credibility in your field. So that maybe makes it more difficult.
Yeah, I agree, Julie. If you're running a business and you're marketing the kind of stuff that I'm marketing, having a book that lets people see what you're up to and that you're not just some kind of fly-by-night,
yes,
but know what you're talking about is worth its weight in gold.
Yes. And I mean, the way you do it is very clever. So you haven't done it in order to sell the books, though you might. I mean, it's there on Amazon. I saw them, but it's also or Waterstone. I think I saw them on. It's also the idea that you then give them as a recap once people have paid already for your masterclass or your 3-day seminar. It's you know, got something to give them that they can take home and go over it again, and it feels very holistic and it feels very fair, right? They've invested their money and their time to be there, but there's only so much that our brain can ingest in one go. Yes. Then they have the book to help them go through it and sort of reinforce the message once they get home. So if I were to ask you for, okay, you've already shared these tips, but let's think of 3 more tips. What tips would you have for budding authors or people who feel that, you know, really they should write a book?
Well, my first tip would be the one that really got me past the writer's block, which is know what you want to write and then structure it like a story.
Okay.
I after I was given the advice, I was surprised that at school I was given that same advice. How about to think about the chapters, what chapter is going to be what, or what paragraph is going to be what, so that you put together the story. And I think this is one that I got when I was in the Navy from one of our instructors, who talked about the way that he teaches, and he said, first I tells them what I'm going to tell them, then I tells them, and then I tells them what I told them.
Right.
And
Okay.
I think that that's a pretty neat structure as well, to have a clear entry into the book so that people know what they're going to be reading.
Yes.
And then the core of the book actually telling them what you're going to tell them, and then a good summary at the end explaining why what you've told them is important, and a little bit about, again, reminding them what you've told them. So
right.
that structure works well for me.
Yeah. And third tip? Do you have one more? Can you get one more tip out?
I probably can. I thought that was 3.
Oh, was it? Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't mind seeing if I can find another one. I think that it's really important that you've got your heart in it, that you commit yourself to doing it, that you're excited about it, and that you're looking for the end game. That all the time you remember that one day this job will be done and you'll have your book.
Right.
I think it was what sustained me in that first book, or the foreplay, fair play, foul play.
There was the idea of how good it was going to feel when it was over. Right.
It's like banging your head against a wall almost.
Yeah.
When you stop.
Yeah.
But also that I had a purpose for it, and that the purpose was important, so that even when I felt, oh my goodness, I just can't be doing with this, I would say, just put it aside for a bit, leave it, come back and get back to it. So
that's also a very good tip, actually, right? Instead of just banging your head against the wall, go for a walk, have a cup of tea, just do something completely different and come back refreshed, because otherwise I think you dig your grave deeper and deeper, just staring there, convincing yourself that you're no good at this and that it's not working. That's actually a very good tip as well. So, John, are you going to be birthing any more books?
I've got 1 or 2 bubbling away.
1 or 2 even?
Yes. As I get older, I've got more time that I can commit to doing it now as well. Although I'm still traveling and delivering seminars all over the world, it's still, there's a couple of things that I want to write about. And particularly, I want to write about one of the forms of love, which is agape. It's about commitment, but it's particularly about love of humankind, love of the planet, love of the environment, the oneness of being a part of the human family. And
beautiful.
And I want to write about that. I'm looking now at what's going on in my world, and I'm thinking, look, stand back, stop doing silly things to one another, and figure out what's in it for us to have peace. So rather than what's in it for us to win the war. Right.
And I think the world is indeed very much in need of that. And I also, you were mentioning that it's also, you have more time now. I also find that one of the good sides of aging, one of the many good sides of aging, is this desire to also to contribute to a better society. And that's what I hear you saying, when you feel you have a mission, that there are books that you want to write because they can help, and they can, that's your way of contributing to indeed making the world a better place. Well, make sure you come back for that one, or at least make sure that we know that it's out there, because that sounds like the sort of book which should also be, talked about and read, so that we can all make it better. Well, thank you very much for this, John, because you've been very honest. Yeah, go ahead.
You're very welcome. One or two things that you said, I wanted to respond to about the first and most important kind of love, which is philautia, loving yourself. Because when we have self-doubts, when we put ourselves down intrapsychically, when we don't feel, well, we just don't feel good about ourselves, it's because we're not loving ourselves.
Right.
Philautia is the most important of all of the loves, in my view. Unless you love yourself, you haven't got much left over for anybody else.
Right. I'm writing this down because I want it for my Christmas present. So there we are. What's love got to do with it? Yeah. It's hard, I think. Well, I don't know if men are different, but in my experience, women are pretty good at being their own worst enemy rather than their own best friend. So thank you for that.
Men are pretty good at that too.
Yeah, they are. Perhaps they hide it more than we do, perhaps. Thank you. Was there something else? You said there were a few things you wanted to come back to. Was there anything else?
That was the primary thing for me. It was that there were a few things that you'd said, and each one that you said involved the internal negative dialogue, and we only have an internal negative dialogue when there's a part of us that's not loving us. We need to love ourselves.
Right. So maybe we all of us want to be authors. We need to first get your book, read the bit about self-love, and then it will all flow and we can get our book off and we will be full of purpose and passion and make it actually happen, right?
I hope so. Go for it.
I hope so too. Thank you very, very much, John. To the rest of you out there, I hope you found this as inspiring as I did. See you at the next one. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.